But boy, the next thing perked him up, didn't it?
What was that?
If he only had time.
Oh, that's right. This perked me up.
Thunderbolt Patterson, and now the people know. The people. They know what we've been talking about. You can't describe it, you have to experience it. And of course, we had heard that Thunderbolt was going to be inducted by like Marion, Ohio radio legend Scott Spears. And we thought, what the f***? Lawler wanted Lance Russell, and they said, no, nobody knows who he is, and he gets a f***ing radio guy from Ohio, but they just humored him. They had New Day along with Big E, who was back with them to give some element of an induction speech, and then introduced, and now accompanied by Scott Spears, here's Thunderbolt Patterson. And T-Bolt's 82, so he's in a wheelchair. They wheeled him out, but he gets up. He can move around, but he couldn't take that long trek, right? Down to the ring. He got up, he hugged Gerald Briscoe and hugged JBL and got back in the chair. And they went to the video, and now the people, you see the 70s footage in the ring. You see what we're talking about with the work. But from the promo clips and then from this speech, you see what we're talking about with the promo. Thunderbolt was over with the fans in the places that he got over. He was over as a person with those people, and they believed in him as a person. And if you had heels that had a lot of heat, the Anderson brothers or whoever the fuck, people would go out of their minds to see Thunderbolt beat them up, and they would overlook a significant portion of Thunderbolt's in-ring because you just had to. But it was the thing that he was doing rather than how he was doing it.
And he was charismatic in the ring. You watch the clips of him in the ring, and you do watch him even though he's unorthodox.
I'm not talking about his charisma when he's in the ring, the strutting and the dancing. I'm talking about when he actually did an offensive move to anybody. That's what you had to overlook, because that looked like shit. But everything else about him was incredible. And lots of people stole stuff from the promos as they talked about. And you see by the clips, the people are going crazy, but the heels are just bumping off of him when he, looks askew in their general direction. And that's what it was. And then, before Thunderbolt started talking, Scott Spears did indeed speak. And I'm surprised. Now, it was after midnight in the building. I'm surprised there weren't snipers from that crowd in Philadelphia.
He called Thunderbolt Patterson the Jackie Robinson of wrestling.
Yeah, well, yes.
That's a bit of a stretch. That's a bit of a stretch.
Bobo Brazil and Jim Mitchell are calling, but nevertheless.
Yeah, really.
What this was local radio at its best. Because he was a local radio guy, and I'm sure he's a big wrestling fan, and he told the most confusing story that I've ever heard in my life about a sheriff killing his wife, and I'm about to tell it better. A sheriff killed his wife and drew the fucking crime photo sketch of Thunderbolt to try to throw people off the trail. But it would have been a hell of a story if anybody had told it. And so then Scott got finished.
If I only did crime.
If I only did crime. If I only had a dime. So then Thunderbolt, then I could call somebody. See, that's
oh, that was amazing. The days of the payphone.
And anyway, Thunderbolt started his speech by praying, and suddenly it was a revival, and it was just like his wrestling promos, only nobody on wrestling television in the territory days ever let him talk for 15 minutes. And now you see what I'm talking about. It's complete gibberish, but an amazing performance. there is no linear story or thought related or possibly even a sentence finished. It's just blurting sound bites and random words and phrases tied together in a performance that's as much athletic as it is verbal, with the contortions and the oomph that he puts in it.
Did you see what happened with his dentures?
At one point, he almost, maybe the polygrip wasn't working like it needed to, but he managed to catch him. And that's the thing, is that you're caught up in whatever the fuck this is. It's a captivating performance of something but you don't know what he's saying. He says a lot of things that sound good, but they don't really join together to form a cohesive story. And then, and I think it was done and he was over, or it was over with. And then he ceased talking. But I'm telling you, nobody says nonsense like that anymore in the world. You can make money with. They did make money with that, because whatever he's doing, people like to watch it.
Well, at one point, the DJ or the local radio guy,
I'm wondering what their format is. He didn't look like a heavy metal kind of guy or a fucking, urban music.
I have a feeling it's talk radio. But he said, when Thunderbolt said, "If you move," the people knew what that meant.
Like, yes, what? And he even told the story wrong about "if only had time." Because I felt
like he watched one of our videos about him.
Yes, I think he may have, to prep for this, because he said one time when asked to go out on television and talk about his match, Thunderbolt said, "If I only had time." No, it was only saying, just say you're going to be in Carrollton tonight. It's a spot show. If we mention it, it draws. If we don't, nobody goes. Just say, the last 30 seconds of the show, "I'll be in Carrollton tonight. I'm coming to Carrollton, Carrollton, Carrollton." That's all you got to say. And Thunderbolt got the last 30 seconds, got finished talking about the Omni, and then looked at the camera and said, "And, ooh, if I only had time." And they went off the air.
Well, this guy explained it. He goes, people knew. Now, when Thunderbolt said, "If I only had time,"
they didn't know, because they didn't hear the word Carrollton to know that he was going to be there in Carrollton that night. But anyway, do you see now?
I'm a fan of Thunderbolt. You ain't going to talk me out of it. I think he's the best.
I'm not saying he's bad, but it's different. It's undescribable.
It points out, like, when you see Big E doing like his evangelical voice or whatever you want to call it, it feels like a guy putting on a voice. Thunderbolt, it's real. It's deep inside. This is the way he communicates.
Yes. Well, no, because there's a different. I'm not trying to pigeonhole or categorize Big E's African-American experience, but I can say this with some degree of certainty, that Thunderbolt Patterson has been in many more black Southern churches in his life than Big E has been in his. And Thunderbolt sounds legitimate. He sounds exactly like the preaching that you would hear in the church in Georgia or in Mississippi or in the Carolinas in those churches, which is why that those audiences believed him, because he sounded exactly like the preacher that was lying to him on Sunday morning. And he was the wrestler that was lying to him on Saturday afternoon. But it was the same. It was legitimate. It was authentic. And this guy's 82 years old now, and he can still talk like that.
Should they give him the Ron Wright gimmick? Bring him back, let him work TVs?
No.
Managing Karrion Kross, Thunderbolt Patterson?
Hey, nobody thought more of Ron Wright than I did, right? And bless his heart. But I wasn't going to pitch Ron for national TV because it wasn't the audience. For East Tennessee, it was perfect because everybody knew somebody like him, but he was turned up all the way with it. And he had the history, and it made sense, and it worked. But with this production right now, Thunderbolt Patterson in the wheelchair, I don't know. And let's face it, Ron Wright could focus on the issue and give you a promo that would get the rest of the people involved over rather than just, we got to go see Thunderbolt or we got to go see Ron.
The people knew when he said, if I only had time, it meant you better come to the arena tonight.
Yeah, because we got no more time on TV, but we'll have more time tonight at the arena. So, it was... This was, again, also, there's been 40 years, what is that, 2 generations, as they count them, removed from when any of these people would have seen Thunderbolt live work or talk or whatever, and it had to be somewhat of a culture shock to go, what's going on here?
Well, the saddest thing is, if someone saw that and said, I wanted to see more Thunderbolt Patterson, there isn't a lot readily available. It's not like some fan could say, this could be something that causes someone to dive off into wrestling history.
Yeah, no, well, and the stuff, most of the promo stuff is from the mid-'80s or early '80s Georgia shows that they have in the library, and then the WCW Legends events or whatever. But
they got Florida stuff, I think, and they've got Mid-Atlantic.
That's what I'm saying is the only... They don't have any Mid-Atlantic as old as Thunderbolt.
No, I guess just 85 is all I'm thinking of.
Well, no, there might very well be some early 80s Mid-Atlantic because Crockett had kept, when they got the Nemo truck, 81-ish, there was a lot of stuff still around.
But he wasn't there. He wasn't around.
He wasn't there. That's why I'm trying to get to that point. Thunderbolt was not in the Carolinas past the mid-'70s, and I think there's only a few things of him on the Mid-Atlantic films that I saved. But the Florida collection is what they got those clips of, the action footage you see of him and Dusty. That's when Dusty was a heel before the 74 turn. That would be the only place that there would be the footage of Thunderbolt when he was really in his prime, really over on top main event guy. And I don't know that they saved the TVs. I think that's a lot of arena matches, so you wouldn't have a lot of interviews. There's where I was going. So not a lot of stuff left.
He's in the limited footage. There is, there's the film they made about the Sam Houston Coliseum and wrestling in 72, I think. He's in that, so you get to see him as a heel working for Paul Bosch.
Did he work some for Einhorn in the IWA, or am I imagining things?
I think he did. I'm trying to remember that intro where they would show you all the different stars. Luscious Larry Heinemey. They would show you all the different stars on there. I think Thunderbolt.
And him too. All the stars and him too.
I think he may have worked there, yeah.